If you're a teenager counting down the days until you can finally get your own credit card, or a parent trying to figure out when your kids should start building credit, there's one number that matters more than any other: 18. But that's really just the beginning of the story, because federal law adds a whole extra layer of rules if you're under 21. Let's break down exactly what the age requirements are, why they exist, and what your options actually look like at every stage. The hard floor, age 18 inches, the United States, you cannot open a credit card in your own name before you turn 18. That's not a bank policy, it's a legal one. A credit card is a binding financial contract, and in nearly every state, you have to be a legal adult to sign one. Before 18, you simply don't have the legal capacity to enter into that kind of agreement, no matter how much money you make or how responsible you are. So 18 is the floor. But here's the part most people don't realize. Turning 18 doesn't automatically mean you'll get approved. The catch: 18 to 20 comes with extra rules. Back in 2009, Congress passed a law called the Credit Card Act, largely in response to a real problem: college students graduating with thousands of dollars in credit card debt they had no way to pay off, often from cards they got approved for with zero income and zero credit history. To fix that, the Card Act added a specific rule. If you're between 18 and 20 years old, a credit card issuer legally cannot approve you unless one of two things is true. First, you can show proof of independent income sufficient to cover the minimum monthly payments. This doesn't have to mean a full-time job, part-time work, freelance income, scholarships, and financial aid beyond tuition can all count in many cases. What issuers generally cannot count, though, is money you might have access to but don't actually control. For example, a parent's income that you're not entitled to, even if you technically live in the same household. Second, if you don't have enough independent income on your own, you can apply with a cosigner, someone who is at least 21 years old and financially able to cover the payments if you can't. That's usually a parent, but it can be any qualifying adult willing to take on that responsibility. So realistically, at 18, 19, or 20, you can absolutely get a credit card. You just need to clear one of those two bars first. What changes at 21? Once you turn 21, both of those extra Card Act restrictions disappear. You can apply for a credit card based purely on your own finances, no cosigner required. And there's another meaningful change too. Once you're 21, you're allowed to include shared household income on your application. For example, a spouse's income, even if that money isn't strictly yours. That one change alone makes it noticeably easier for many 21-plus applicants to qualify for cards with better rewards, higher limits, and lower interest rates. What if you're under 18? Here's where it gets interesting. Because being under 18 doesn't mean you're completely locked out of the credit card world. It just means you can't be the primary account holder. The workaround is something called an authorized user. This lets an adult, usually a parent, add you to their existing credit card account. You get your own card with your own name on it. You can use it for purchases, but the adult on the account remains legally responsible for paying the bill. If the issuer reports that account activity to the credit bureaus, and many do, it can actually start building your credit history well before you turn 18. The minimum age for becoming an authorized user isn't set by federal law. It's set by each individual card issuer. Some companies don't have a minimum age at all. Others set the bar somewhere between 13 and 18. So if you're a parent looking to get your teenager a head start on their credit history, this is genuinely the earliest option available, sometimes years before they could ever qualify on their own. Why the age rules exist in the first place. It's worth understanding the reasoning here, because it's not arbitrary. Before the Card Act passed in 2009, credit card companies could and often did market aggressively to college students with essentially no income verification at all. Free t-shirts, campus tables, easy approvals. The result was a generation of young adults leaving school with high interest debt stacked on top of student loans, often before they'd ever held a full-time job. Congress designed the age and income rules specifically to close that gap. Not to keep young people out of the credit system entirely, but to make sure that when they do get a card, there's at least some real ability to pay attached to it. So what should you actually do? If you're under 18, the smartest move is usually becoming an authorized user on a parent's account, assuming they have a track record of responsible use. It costs you nothing, and it can quietly build your credit file in the background. If you're 18 to 20, look closely at student credit cards and secured credit cards. Student cards are specifically designed for people with limited credit history and often have simpler approval standards. Secured cards require a cash deposit that becomes your credit limit, for example. Put down $300, and that's your line of credit. But they're one of the most reliable ways to build credit from scratch if you don't have income to qualify for a traditional unsecured card. If you're 21 or older, your options open up significantly. You can apply purely on your own financial standing, include household income if that applies to you, and start considering cards with better rewards and benefits, assuming your credit history supports it. The bottom line, 18 is the legal minimum to hold your own credit card in the U.S. But if you're under 21, you'll need either proof of independent income or a cosigner before an issuer can legally approve you. Under 18, an authorized user account is your best path to start building credit early. And once you hit 21, the extra restrictions fall away completely and you can qualify purely on your own merits. The bigger point underneath all of this, the earlier you start building responsible credit habits, whether that's as an authorized user at 15 or with your first card at 18, the better positioned you'll be later for renting an apartment, financing a car, or qualifying for a mortgage down the line. Age is really just the starting gate. What you do with your credit after that is what actually determines the outcome. Thank you for watching.